and use it to build a patient, because no patient will come to you and say, I have cystic fibrosis, doc, or I have galactosemia. So they're going to come to you with certain chief complaints, signs and symptoms and stuff. So you need to be able to convert those raw knowledge and basic sciences into a patient, right? How a patient will present to you. And then once you have that, you should be able to apply, learn how to apply the knowledge. And then the final thing would be self-control, which is super important, right? Like, and I'm going to talk more about that, right, moving forward. Yeah. So for acquisition of knowledge, you need to be able to read, comprehend, and understand what's going on. So that's going to be super important. And then building a clinical vignette, it has to do with the clinical framework, right? So always ask yourself, what kind of patients will present, right? This kind of disease. So you are trying to examine the age of the patient, the sex of the patient, what chief complaints the patient will come in with, what are the signs and symptoms you're going to see, what the labs will show. Yeah, so you should be able to build a patient, right, from the basic knowledge. And then you should be able to apply the information, right? Recall and apply information. I'm going to talk about that. And the best way to recall will be active recall. So a lot of us take notes when we go through questions, but we are just writing facts. Facts, facts, facts. You're writing definitions, you're writing lists. And then you see the question again, you've forgotten, right? And then you rewrite the same facts again. But the secret to taking notes is this. Whenever you take notes, divide your notebook into two. On the right side of the note, that is where your facts will be. On the left side, convert those facts into questions. Yeah. So if the fact, for instance, is chromatin is a condensed form of DNA, that will be on the right side of my note. Then on the left side of my note, I'm going to create a question of what is chromatin. So you're going to do that. Whenever you go to questions, you're watching the videos, you're going to your first aid, you're keeping notes that way, creating questions from facts. So if I come back to review my notes, what I'm going to do is I will cover the facts up, and I'm going to be reading the questions out loud to myself and be trying to remember the fact offhand. So the more you do that, the more you strengthen the pathway in your brain, right, and memory, and the better you're going to do, right, remembering it long term. Yeah. So that is the secret to taking notes, right? And that is one of the key difference between people that get 260 plus and those that get below that, because of that active recall, always stressing their brain and stuff. Then when it comes to self-reflection, this is what I'm talking about that. So when most of us, we fail questions, so we miss a question, we read the explanation, and then we just move on right to the next one, and that's it. No, you have to scrutinize yourself. One of the things I learned during my preparation is you are your own worst enemy. Like once you acquire knowledge, right, there are things that will impede you from properly applying the knowledge. So, and here's the thing. So whenever you go to a question, and whether you fail it or you struggle with the question, you should do some self-reflection. One of the things you ask yourself is this a new information? Have I seen it before? So if you have not seen it before, then you go back to knowledge acquisition, right, and try to acquire the knowledge. If you've seen it before, ask yourself, did I understand it? So if you don't understand it now, try to find another material that will better, right, allow you to understand. If you understood it, you have to ask yourself, was I able to remember the concept to apply to the question? So if I'm unable to recall, it means I need to come up with a mnemonic or something funny, or make some sort of connection, right? Or create a flashcard to help me recall the information over time, right? And then if you're able to recall, but still you got it wrong, then you have to ask yourself, did I change my mind? So you pick the right answer, then you change the wrong one. Right? Did I doubt myself? Was I indecisive? Did I run out of time? Was there external factors like noises and stuff? Right? Yeah. So you gotta know exactly where you stand for each question, for each concept. Why am I getting this wrong? So that you can attack right, that question at the root of the problem, right? Instead of just generalizing the problem, right? Yeah. So that's going to be super important. I think that's another thing that separates 260 plus from those that get less than 260 is also the ability to just know themselves and work on themselves. I'm going to give you a practical example. For instance, myself, whenever I do poorly on the NBN assessment before I go to the exam, I found out that it's actually self. Like I have the knowledge, but I was struggling with sometimes changing my mind, making decisions. So what I did was I started noticing that. So I watched myself and see, was I getting the first question, the first option wrong, right, or was I getting it correctly when I changed my mind, right, to the second option? So I noticed that my first choice is always correct most of the time than the one I change it to. So when I got to the exam, whenever I when I face questions like that, where I'm stuck between two options and I'm struggling, I'll leave my first instinct and move on. Because when I'm practicing, my first thing is always correct, right? So when you get to the exam now, you stick to that, right? And then you're going to apply that same principle, right, to the exam itself. Yeah. So I think that's the general overview, right, of I think what are the major keys between 260 plus and below 260.
Wow. So what you're saying basically right now is we are our number one enemy.
Yes.
And we do not scrutinize ourselves enough. And we create these roadblocks of getting uncomfortable to break out of our bad habits of thinking we know information and we're not able to separate facts from application.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Wow. So walk us through like, you know, how your journey from the beginning. Like, all right, when you started studying, because most students, you know, there's three types of students, I say. There's students that have no foundation. There have students that have weak foundation, and then you have students that have solid foundation. So which of those were you when you got started?
I had a solid foundation, right? Because I pretty much I did well in my step one. Of course, not I could have done better, but I think pretty good. And also, when I was doing my clinical rotations, that's when I actually covered the foundational principles. That was when I was reading my first aid. That's when I was watching lecture videos, right? Yeah, and building that foundation during my clinical rotation. So by the time I started preparing for the exam, my first NBME I did was actually 245. That's what I got for my diagnostic NBME, right? So I knew, okay, foundation was there. Now it's just to learn, build on that, and build principles of management, right? And diagnosis, and also work on my own self, right? Things like self-doubt and indecisiveness. Yes, that's where I started from.
So how do people build their foundation? Like, you know, I'm a student. I've been out of school for 5 years. I'm an IMG. I came from India. And I don't know the American healthcare system. I don't know what everybody's telling me to read this first aid. I don't understand anything. How do I build my foundation?
Well, that's why you have your review courses. Yes, so the review courses are meant to be foundation. So at Smash, we have review courses, doctor additional videos, we have the master class, we have, and then other review courses that we want to use, like RX or AMBUS or whatever, RX or Both and Beyond. All those are the foundational courses that are meant for you to build foundation. So I'm coming in, I've been out of school for a while. I want to listen, I want to sit in the lecture from a doctor or a lecturer that is building the foundation with me, right? Help me build that foundation. So that's what those courses are for, to build those foundation. Then once you build the foundation now, you cannot move on to the next step. But if you don't build a foundation, it's going to be difficult, right? To transition, right, to the next step, right? Things that you need to do now to get to that 260. Yeah.
But people keep saying I have to do questions. That's what everybody says. So
All right.
I don't.
Okay, let me talk about that. Questions, important, right? But here's the thing with questions. Questions is actually where you start practicing how to apply knowledge. That's what quiz banks are for. Yeah. So because imagine going to a question and I have no clue what the question is asking me. I'm going to be guessing the answers, right? And it doesn't make sense. There's no way I'm going to learn or build confidence, right? That way. No. Yeah. So when you know yourself, either based on your diagnostic MBME or you talk to your coach and you're able to like know where you're starting from. Like the tradition says it, you have your foundation and you don't have it, etc. If you don't have your foundation, start with the courses first. I would advise go through the videos, etc. Make a schedule to go through the videos and lay that foundation. And then you cannot transition to question. When you get to question now, that is when you're going to start applying those knowledge. It's a practice of application of knowledge. But if I don't have the knowledge, then that practice of application will not make any sense. Like I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to get discouraged and give up. Yeah. So build the foundation first, and then go to the questions and start applying those knowledge to your questions. And as you're doing that, you are evaluating yourself. Yeah, at the same time to see which gaps are still remaining. Right. So when you go to questions, three things you want to achieve. The first thing, apply the knowledge you already have. So after I build the foundation, I'll apply. Second thing, find out new gaps in knowledge. So those questions that I'm struggling with, have I read it before? Do I comprehend? Do I recall? Or is it my own self that made me miss it, right? Then the third thing now, go and fill those gaps now. So you cannot go back to those courses and find out, okay, this video now, I need to watch it again. Oh, this, I need to go through it again and fill those gaps. And then go to the next question, do it again. Apply the knowledge you already have, find out new gaps in knowledge, go and fill the gaps, with the foundational courses again, and then you continue, right? That's how you do that. That's where question comes into play.
So how do I know that because I call them 3 buckets, and for everybody listening right now, until their own self be true, right? A lot of us seems like we have this false ego when it comes to the USMLE. What have you seen amongst IMGs, especially when they've never taken a step 1 before, or step 2 CK, right? And they're like, I'm an ophthalmologist, or I already graduated from medical school, or I'm from a Caribbean school, or I was the top of my class. Like, how do I determine where bucket I fall into? Am I the low weak guy, no idea what I'm doing, or I am in the okay, I kind of knew a little bit, or oh yeah, I got good knowledge. What would be a recommendation?
The recommendation is to use an objective test, right, of knowledge, which is the NBME assessment. That would be my recommendation. And you should trust the assessment, because that's one thing. Some people take the assessment, they still be like, oh, this is not the true determination of where my knowledge is, right? So I think that would be the best thing. Before you start, take an NBME assessment and see where you are. Yeah. And if the pass mark is 209, I'm at 240, 140, then I mean, I don't need to deceive myself. I should that shouldn't bring you down, right? It's a diagnostic test. It shows you where you're starting from, right? It's going to show you how much work you need to do, where you are, and then you should use that as a drive, right? To now work hard and push that 140, right? As high as you can, right? With each exam that you take or assessment that you take, right? Yeah. So the NBME will be the best test, right, of where you are, objectively speaking, and then you can now build on that, right? To know where you're going to begin your prep from. Yes.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to take the diagnostic test. It's 4 hours long, and it's very painful. And number 3, I don't want to know my score.
Okay.
And number 4, I'm afraid I'm going to get a lower score because I don't feel like I'm prepared to take the NBME. How do I overcome this objection? Because this is what's going on in the mind of our students, right? How do they overcome this?
All right. Yeah. Same thing. I've been through this, right? Yeah. And what I usually tell my students is, I'm going to start that it's a diagnostic test. It's not the exam itself, right? That's what I'm going to start with. But if you still have students that are resistant, right, to taking it because of that, I think that shouldn't stop them preparing, right? Start to prepare, because lack of confidence by itself is a problem. I mean, if I'm not confident enough to take the NBM assessment, then I shouldn't even go near the real exam, right? I mean, that's already diagnostic for you that, oh, man, I'm not confident in my ability. There's a problem. So you can start building now. Go to the foundational courses, right, and start building that foundation. So you can do that. Then after you build the foundation, then you cannot take the NBME and see where you are. And I think after going through those courses, you're going to be more confident and be like, okay, let me go and apply what I know now, and then take the NBM diagnosis before you now move on to the next stage of using the Q bank and stuff like that. Yes, I think that would be the best way to go about that.
So one of the biggest challenges I think a lot of students have found out is they take this NBME and then they get a score report. And they have all they see is the 120 at the top or 165. Yeah. They don't understand what the rest of the graph is. Isn't that a problem?
It is a problem, right? For sure. You should be able to interpret, right, the exam. But here's the thing. If you get a score of 120, honestly, 120 is the score. I don't care what the bar says. You have no foundation, right? Now, I believe when the strengths and weaknesses, right, is going to start coming into play is when you start getting close to maybe the average score or the pass mark. Like, so if I'm getting close to 209, I'm at 190 plus, I'm at over 200 plus, I set the target for 250, I'm already hitting 230, then I can start using the strength and weaknesses bar, right, to say, okay, what weaknesses remains for me to strengthen to get to that target score. But if I'm 100 points off my target score, I'm over 50 points off my target score, just start from scratch and go through everything once, build everything up. And then once you get close to your target score, you can start using the weaknesses and strength performance analysis, right? To determine, okay, what are the lingering weaknesses I need to strengthen to get to that target score? Because your strength will not get stronger. If I'm already at strong in something, it's probably not get stronger much more, right? But so it's going to be the weaknesses that'll push my score right overboard. Yes, that's what I'm gonna say about that.
So here at Smash USMLE, we do this MBME assessment for you guys
Yes.
that are listening right now. So because when they changed to the new MBME assessment report, I think because of the way they're saying, your performance compared to your own performance versus your performance compared to everybody else, I think it has thrown a lot of people off. And we have a video actually of part of our course that explains this in details for you guys if you're listening right now, that breaks down. I actually did almost a 37-minute video on it, going into detail exactly what that score report means, because I think the challenge also is that when you get a score report that you can't even interpret the data, then you can't use an objective measurement to be able to, assess like, all right, what should I do? So here, if you're scoring less than 150, guys, you still know nothing. I'm just going to be blunt with you. All right. You may not like it. You don't know anything, and it's okay. Like, everybody suck at the beginning. All right. The problem is, and I'm going to have you address this. So most people, their source of information is Reddit or USMLE forums. So let's talk about the pros and cons of these forums when it comes to preparing for USMLE.
Too much information, right? Sometimes it's bad. So yeah, I mean, you need to be, one of the keys to preparing for the exam is efficiency. I mean, I need to use what works and use it well. That is the goal. Reddit for and other forums, right? There's so many materials in there. Everybody uses this, that. So you're gonna be tempted, right, to follow your peer. There's like this, peer pressure right behind that. Okay, until I do this before I get a 260, or until I do this before I get a 260. Honestly, most of these materials we have for the review courses, right, for USMLE, they are almost comparable to each other, right? Because they are covering the same thing. Yeah, some of them are a little bit better than others, but still covering the same thing. I think the differences in there, how better they are, is because of the student they target. For instance, we target IMGs, so of course we're going to be thinking like an IMG mostly in our videos, right? In terms of laying the foundation necessary. Yeah, if another course is not targeting IMGs, maybe a little bit, we may use a different approach, right? Yeah. So I'm going to say, listen to your coach who have done it, right, before, who have gone through this, they have the experience, and you guys should come up with a material that you feel you like best or works for you best. Don't use 3 question banks. Don't use 3 review courses at the same time. No, it's gonna be bad. Also, like I said before, you are your own worst enemy. So I am different from Dr. Dishner. You are gonna be different from those people on Reddit telling you about their experience, what they struggle with, etc. So when I read their experience, the question I'm going to ask myself is, does this apply to me? That's the next question, right? Oh, I struggle with time. Do I struggle with time? If I struggle with time, I'm going to look at the strategy the person used on the forum, right, to solve their problem and see if it works for me. If I don't struggle with time, I already have a system that works for me. I don't need to worry about that. I'll move on to something else I'm struggling with, right? So please read those forums cautiously and read them by reflecting on yourself. Does this apply to me, right? And then go to your coaches and, get the best professional advice on those things. Yes.
So be careful, guys, what you're listening to, right? Everybody has an opinion, right?
Yeah.
They said opinions are like buttholes. Everybody has one, right? Just because people are giving you advice on the internet, like you post on the forum, right? And you get like 15 response to your question, right? And then you walk away more anxious, more anxiety, and you can't even like, okay, somebody said this. The problem is the validity of their opinions cannot be backed up because they're not physically in front of a Zoom call or standing there, and they don't have a score report, right? People, I can make up, I don't know if you guys know, people actually make up numbers on Reddit and will write those, like as a joke. NBM is, 25, 266. NBM is, 26, 270, right? You actually post these things, right? So except somebody posts a score report with a USMLE ID showing, right? I can't validate just a bunch of text on the screen. So just be careful, guys, because you get overwhelmed and sometimes you get more depressed, and be careful what you read on the internet. That's just what I'm going to agree and tell you guys about that. Now, let's talk about the next phase. I've got my MBME assessment. I'm still weak. I'm working from the beginning to the end. But then let's say what's for step 1. and I'm reading first aid and I don't understand, like people told me just to read first aid. So I'm trying to read first aid page by page every day. I've read the GI section and I read the first 10 pages, but I don't recall anything because there was a lot of just blanks in there. How do we deal with this?
All right. So first aid is not meant to be used alone, right? It contains high yield stuffs, but there are so many things behind the scene, right? That is not on the book, right? That's what I'm going to say. So the best way to use first aid is to use it together with either a lecture video. So you're watching it side by side with your first aid, or you are integrating with your Q bank explanation. That's going to be the best way to use first aid. First aid by itself, I yield points, good, but it contains points that I should absolutely remember, right, for my exam. That's what it contains. But it's gonna be relevant only after you have some foundation, only after you understand, you build some understanding and comprehension. That's when I'm gonna come to first aid and use it. And that thing, in fact, for me, one of the ways I use first aid was as a checklist. What I mean by that is after I've studied, like I've gone through the detailed, I've gone through Q banks, I have my own detailed notes. Then I go through first aid, and what I do is I will open first aid and look at the topic. I will not read the content here, look at the topic on that page and try to recall offhand as much as I can about that topic, what I've read, what I understood about it, and then read first aid and see if there's any new information I don't know yet or something I forgot. I fill in the gap, I move on, see the next, right? So that's how to use first aid. Don't use it alone as a textbook, use it together with other resources, right, that are more comprehensive, yes.
Okay. All right. So now, should we be writing notes in our first aid?
Yeah, we should be. Yeah, we should, but not too much of everything, right? Is bad, right? So everything, here's the thing. I'm actually not a big fan of even highlighting the first aid because everything in there is high yield. Like, so if you want to highlight, you're going to highlight the whole book, right? So everything there is high yield, but you can annotate. What I call annotation is use trigger words, not full sentences. Use trigger words or phrases. So that is, if I say a word, it's going to trigger a bigger explanation, right, or bigger picture of something. That's what you can annotate in your first aid, yeah. And only annotate those things that are not there. Please, if it's already in your first aid, don't rewrite it again. And don't highlight the first aid. I think if you highlight it, everything is IU basically. So I'll end up by writing the whole book, right? Yeah. So writing your first aid, but in moderation, use trigger words or phrases, things that you're going to see that will trigger a bigger explanation. If you keep forgetting the bigger explanation from the trigger words, write a brief summary of the explanation in the post note and put it right on the book, not write directly on the book, right? Yeah, I think that would be the best way to annotate on first aid.
Okay. How do I monitor my progress then? Like, how do I know I'm improving?
Okay, nice. NBME will allow you, but before you take NBME assessment, right? I'm going to talk about how you're going to monitor your progress first, and then how the NBME now can be used later. So when you want to monitor your progress, right, please don't be specific, right? I mean, a lot of people monitor progress too broadly. For instance, I'm weak in cardiovascular system. It's too broad. Like cardiovascular is the whole thing. If you're weak in cardiovascular system, you might actually be stronger in some topics in cardiovascular system and just weak in some. So you have to be specific. You have to be precise. So what I do is I keep what I call a problem list. Whenever I'm studying, I have my problem list by my side in my notebook. And any question that I miss or I struggle with, especially if I keep missing that question repeatedly, I'm going to write down the concept tested by that question. And you have to be as specific as possible. So don't say cardiovascular system. Cardiovascular system, aortic aneurysm. That will be specific. Like, I'm missing these questions. Oh, cardiovascular system, aortic aneurysm actually with Marfan syndrome. Okay, specific, right? You write down your problem list. You're watching videos, you're going to the foundational courses, there are still things that doesn't make sense. You watch it over again, doesn't put it on your problem list, right? Specifically, be specific wherever it is. And that's how you track. Now, here's the thing. If I give cardiovascular system 6 days to study CVS, and I start going through question, right, on day one, I'm going to have a longer list on day one, yes. Then at the end of that day, I review my problem list, either at the end of that day or the beginning of the next day, I review my problem list, and then I go through new set of questions on day two. My problem list should be shorter because now I should know more than day one. By the time you get to day 5 of CBS, your problem list should be probably 0 or maybe 1 or 2 topics. That's when you know that, oh, I'm making progress. I'm knowing more and I have less problem. Yes. So that's how you keep track of yourself before you take the NBME exam. And then when you now take the NBME, now you can now see, even when NBME will tell you broadly it's maybe cardiovascular system or GI that is weak, but still, I think by keeping that problem list, you can better precisely, right, pinpoint exactly where is weak, and then you can work on that. That will increase efficiency, yes.
So when do I make a decision that I'm ready to take the USMLE?
When you are about 20 points, give or take, right, within your target score, yes. And some people, and a follow-up question to that would be like, how do I determine my target score, right? Depends on what you want to do. Is it the specialty or stuff? So Dr. Additional has also covered this. You gotta, like, you can go to look at the previous residents that matched in that specialty and look at the average score, and you can use that to determine, yeah. We are not saying score is everything, right? But the more advantage you can get, the better. Yes. So if you know the target score, or the average score for the resident that match in that specialty, that should be your target score. And then by the time you start eating, because the standard deviation for your exam is about 8 points, right? So by the time you are within 8 points plus or minus that target score, right? I think that is when you should start, okay, yes, I cannot take this exam. If you feel like, oh, I still, maybe you are the peak of your, score, your score is not improving anymore, you're not at the target score yet, but you are way above the pass mark, right? And I will encourage at least 20 to 30 points above the pass mark, but you're still not at the target score, you can still take the exam. The reason I always say that is because in the exam itself, there are so many, because you're going through more questions than you're going to about 6 or 7 to 8 blocks of question. You're going to be seeing a mix of what your weaknesses and strength. If you have more strength than weaknesses, the chance that you're still going to do way better, right, in the exam that you've been doing, right, in your performance, right? Yeah. So that's how you decide when you're ready, right, or not.
So let's talk about the exam day.
All right.
Right. Or before the exam day. Like,
okay,
what should students be? So you've studied well enough, you've improved your NBME score, you feel like you're confident in your understanding. There's one big elephant in the room is exam anxiety. How critical is it to prepare for the exam day itself and how it's gonna go?
Oh, it is critical. It is critical. And in fact, throughout your preparation, always think of meeting the same scenario in your exam. For instance, not just like the exam itself, every other circumstances surrounding the exam itself. Yeah, that would be important. So I think it's important to control what you can control, right? And leave what you cannot control. What do I mean by that? For instance, leading up to exam, when it's about, I will encourage at most, latest a week, right, to your exam, start a regular sleep schedule. So some people study all the way to like a night before the exam, like rigorously. Bad idea. You have to start like a regular sleep schedule because you want to be able to get a good sleep a night before your exam. And if you don't have that regular sleep schedule like a week before that night, it's going to be difficult for you to get some sleep. You have to turn, if possible, right, stay away from the internet 24 hours to your exam. I literally turned off my Wi-Fi. So WhatsApp, everything off. There's no news because you have to be temperamentally neutral. You don't want to be too excited. You don't want to be too depressed, right? So any news that will make you too hyper, any news that will make you too depressed, you want to avoid it, right? So stay with your email because of notification or keep your phone on because of notifications and stuff, but stay away from news cycles, social media, etc., and just stay in your element, right? I also encourage, try by midday, the day before your exam, stop studying, like just stop and at most midday, the day before your exam, stop studying. And then by 6 p.m., the night before your exam, stay away from screens so that you can sleep right when the time comes, right? Just turn off all screens and stuff like that. So those are some of the things that I kind of implemented on my own. And when I woke up the next morning, I actually felt way better, like refreshed. I wasn't thinking about the news that I heard. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just, okay, let's go and do this. When I got to the exam itself, I went there early, right? The reason I went there, I wanted to get oriented to my environment because I've never been there before. So I wanted to walk around a little, see where the restroom is, see where the restaurants are, see where the dining all it is, right? So that I know where everything is, right? And get oriented to my environment. So I did that. Stay away from other examiners. If you can isolate yourself, yes. Because some people might be discussing something. They are going to be right. It's going to distract you. There's nothing new you can do at that point that will add any extra value. So just all you want to do now is just stay grounded, right, as best as possible. So stay away from the other examinees and examinees and just stay isolated so that nobody affects your mood and affect and stuff. Yeah. So that's going to be that. Then trust your preparation. You've been studying for months. You've seen your results. If you need to keep seeing the score, right, until you get to the exam, right, before you release your phone and everything, keep looking at those scores, your progress, right, over time. And let that be a boost of confidence that, yes, I've come this far, I'm ready, I've done this. I'm going to see the same scenarios, right, or principles in the exams, nothing new, yeah, and stuff like that. Another thing I kept telling myself was, this morning, I'm about to see 300 plus patients, not questions. That's what I did. So automatically my mindset changed from a student to a medical doctor. Like I was like, okay, I'm about to go and see 300 plus patients this morning, not vignettes, not questions, no. So I was, and that I think also boosts my confidence, right? Like, okay, I don't want to fail these patients. I don't want to miss this diagnosis. I don't want to mistreat them, right? And give me more confidence, right? Yeah. So that's it. If you need professional help for anxiety, definitely get it before your exam. Get the right drugs, yeah, to help you. Please, you have one shot for this exam. Do not downplay. It's not just about passing, it's about passing as well as you can. So don't downplay anything that will impede you getting that to 60 plus. Like I said, it goes beyond knowledge. The difference between those that get to 60 plus and those that get below that is actually beyond knowledge. It's not just knowledge, it's other things that you just described now that they do to maximize themselves, right, for the exam. Yeah.
So you walk into the Prometric Center, right? You got to check in. And a lot of people may not know this. They fingerprint you for everything. If you go inside the computer room and come out, right? You got to get fingerprinted. Let's talk about the first 15 minutes before you even click start. What is there a preparation people should do to get familiar with those instructions? So that's the day we want to be reading the instructions on how to navigate the questions.
Oh no, you should go through the instructions before you go to the exam. Yeah. Actually, I also went through the instructions too on the exam day itself, just in case anything changes or they had something. But I was familiar with everything around the instructions. I already went through it before. Yeah, so you should do that. Also, that time is for you to like get settled in. Believe it or not, like you've been studying in a different environment. You've been doing your NBM assessment in a different environment. Some of us have written we've last written a prometric exam, maybe never. Some of us have last written years ago. It's a new setting environment. Everything is quiet. You are being watched. Trust me, it's gonna take you off your game a little. Like, it's different. I struggle with that. For my first two blocks, I was struggling with being comfortable. Like I couldn't just get used to sitting there and there's a camera overhead or whatever, the examiners. Yeah, it was strange, right? So it took me like two blocks to adjust to that. Yes. So that's what I wanted to like think about. So, and I think it took me that long because I wasn't expecting to not get comfortable, right? When I get in, yeah, I wasn't expecting it. So having that mindset, while you're going through the instructions for the prometric, while they're searching you, they're taking your fingerprint, use the opportunity to like just settle in like, yes, this is a different environment now. I'm gonna be watched here. There's a camera, there's this. It's not to increase anxiety, but it is to improve, like make you more comfortable and accept it that yeah, it is what it is. Yes. So yeah, that just is a mindset issue. Just know that you're gonna get uncomfortable, but accept it and be ready, right, to dive into it. Yeah.
So now a lot of people don't understand how intimidating it is when you walk in there and the amount of procedures that happen, the strict guidelines they have to protect the integrity of the USMLE exam so that questions are not getting leaked and people are not cheating. Like this is like insane. You're thinking like the Secret Service is watching you. They've got a camera in front of your face that's watching your eye movements. They've got cameras every angle possible. You cannot bring a pencil or even a pen into the exam hall. And when you're there, you see all these other examiners. People are taking the PCAT, they're taking the MCAT, they're taking the USMLE. So it's not just one exam. Um, Even the temperature of the room. You know, if you're somebody, if you're the person that gets cold easily because they drop you down to like 70 degrees, please bring a sweater. Like
yes.
those subtle things will throw you off your game on the most important day of your life. So have a sweater as a backup inside. They're not going to let you bring it in until like you say, okay, I want to put my sweater on, because if it gets too hot, make sure you're not wearing something too warm so that, you know, because that day has to be perfect. Like, it's almost like the world has to stand still for you to make this happen. Like anything throws you off to the point. Here's what I tell students: make sure you drive to the exam center the day before. Like, you may think that's not a big deal. Find out if you get stuck in traffic. Like, know the traffic data. Know that, listen, if I'm driving to the exam hall, right, it's going to take me 30 minutes drive, but that's because maybe there was no traffic when you put it in on your GPS. But in the morning at 7 a.m., when everybody's going to work and you're trying to drive to the center, like, factor that into the equation. So you're like, I'm going to leave 2 hours early. All right. Now, another thing a lot of students don't realize is your ID, right? Like, the things that are going to get you into the exam hall, bring it. I forgot my ID the day of the exam. Like, think for my step one, I got to the exam hall and I forgot my USMLE ID with the, you know, now I think you can have it on a digital. Back then it was paper. And even if it's digital, what if your phone doesn't connect to Wi-Fi? Like, you don't want to take chances. Your government ID, your passport or your driver's license, make sure you have it inside your backpack. Like, check it like 5 times. Because I got to the exam hall and I freaked out. Like, I couldn't drive back home. I had to call my friend to come pick up my ID from because I left it on the table. Put it in your car, check it like 3 times. Okay. Let's talk about food, right? I mean, we're trying to, give you guys as much value today. Even the food you're going to eat, let's talk about that. Because this is an 7-hour exam.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So don't skip breakfast, right? Ever. Like, no, not even an option. Do not skip breakfast. Yeah, but it has to be something light though. So something that will not make you sleepy, right? In the exam hall. So it has to be light. For me, I definitely drank some coffee. Not a lot of coffee, and that coffee actually affected me because my bladder got full after 2 hours, after 2 blocks. So in the middle of the 3rd block, it was uncomfortable, doctor. I wanted to scream, like run out of the exam hall, but I couldn't. I already started the 3rd block, so I had to sit down there. So I would advise, if you drink coffee or you drank water, just take a break after the first 2 blocks and go for a rest to the restroom and come back. Yeah. Because in the middle of the 3rd block, trust me, it's not going to be funny. Yeah, your brother's going to get food there. So be careful. And then I had something like, right, mostly I actually had a lot of fruits like bananas, and then I had a sandwich, right, bread and stuff. So that's what I did for breakfast. And so to the exam center, I took more fruits, bananas, apple, and then I took a little rice and some chicken, right, for protein. So that's what I took to the exam hall. Yeah. So you can also find things like hard candy that would do, things like pasta, anything that will, like a complex carbohydrate, right, that will reduce glucose slowly over time. That would be the best kind of food to take to the exam hall. Yeah. So, and in between so after 3 blocks, I took a break. I went to the restroom and then I had something. Please don't be tempted to like eat too much either. You just want to eat enough to suppress hunger, but not so much that you are not going to get tired and be sleepy and be uncomfortable and your abdomen is all bloated. And trust me, no. Yeah, so ate a little, went back, did another 3 blocks, came back, ate a little, and then did the last 2 blocks. So that's what I did.
How do you overcome test anxiety on the exam? So you open the block. The first question, you have no idea. What do you do?
Remember your preparation. I mean, I know the first instinct is to throw away everything you've been doing while practicing, right, or preparing, but don't. Truthfully, we want to get to the exam and like get 100%, right? But it's not possible. You're not going to get 100%. There'll be questions that you're going to fail. However, what I usually tell myself is your goal in this exam is to make the best possible decision, to pick the best possible answer. I'm not saying pick the correct answer. In my mind, I wasn't thinking pick the correct answer. I'm picking the best answer for the question. Whether it's correct or not, doesn't matter. It's for the examiner to figure that out. For me, is to pick the best possible answer. So that was my mindset going in. So whenever I see a question that I don't know, instead of using fast thinking, right, intuition to quickly pick an answer and move, that's when I slow down a little, and then I bring out my ease method. And I like line by line and try to figure out, okay, is there a clue here that I can rule out this? I can strike out this option, I can do this. And then whatever option remains, even if I'm not sure it's correct, but based on what I've done, I know this is probably the best possible here. I pick it and I move on, right? So if you see the first answer question, you don't know it, please stay composed, like remember your training, what you've been preparing for, because you've met questions like that when you're practicing, right? So just apply that same thing that you were when you're practicing, pick the best possible answer, mark the question and move on. Don't leave any question unanswered. Don't say, oh, I'm going to come back to now. Mark it, pick the possible answer and move on. That's what you're going to do. Then be short-tempered. What I mean by that is when you move on, forget it. Because if you're going to the next question and you keep thinking, oh, that previous answer question is probably A, not B, you are taking time away from the one you are on now, and you're probably going to miss both of them if you're not careful, right? Yeah. So that's going to be the best way to deal with, and questions that you're not completely sure of.
So you have to have a short memory when you're taking this test. And I think a lot of us, I think when you guys are preparing for step 1, step 2, step 3, start to build that when you're doing your questions in random mode. So for example, because on the exam day, it will kill you, right? Like it will literally destroy your entire morale, because what students typically would do is you do the block. There was one that was strep pneumonia. Oh my gosh. And then you're stuck on it because you are so angry at yourself, because your brain is scanning your first aid and you are trying to see in your mind, oh, I think I saw it in UWorld, or I see an RX or Ambo. I think, right? And then your anxiety goes up, right? And, pick the best answer and move on, or mark it. Another thing I always tell students is your first goal when you do your first block is to get to see all the questions once. Like, it doesn't matter, all right? Even we're able to answer all of them, right? Because you have 90 seconds per question.
Yeah.
You don't have unlimited amount of time. So turn off the timer, because if you keep looking at the timer every second, it's going to distract you. Turn off the timer with a framework that at the end of the block, I'm going to, if you guys can get through and if you do this with practice in your practice test, you're just doing the same thing on the exam mode. When you put in a time mode, you're going to know, like, if I can get through all these questions within, it takes 1 hour to finish a block. That's what they recommend. That's it. But if you're able to get through that in like at least 45 minutes or 40 minutes, like that gives you about 1 minute per block. So you should kind of target that. If you guys are able to do that, then because if you spend 2 minutes on one question, it accumulates over time, right? Those little extra 30 seconds you're wasting on questions that you feel like you can't answer, that you didn't mark and move on, will haunt you, because then the time runs out. And then once time runs out, if you run out of time just in one block, you're technically screwed for the whole exam.
Yeah.
Because your mind will keep saying, my gosh, there was 6 questions I didn't even answer in the last block. And the time doesn't stop, guys. Once you click start on the next block, another time is ticking down. So now when you guys move to the second block and you're worried about the 6 questions you didn't answer in the last block, and then your mind is like, you see, I told you, you shouldn't have wasted time on that question. You start self-doubt, it's hard to kick in. Yeah. I noticed that a lot of students that come out of the exam and say, Doc, I ran out of time in multiple blocks. And I said, I knew exactly what you did wrong. Okay, please don't fall into that trap. It's a big trap. The exam is a marathon. You are not going to get every single question right. Even if you got a 266, right?
Yeah.
Let's presume, so it's 40 questions per block. There's 280 questions. Let's even assume, like the grade is 300. Let's assume there's 280, it's 1 point per question. Let's assume that, right? That means even if you got a 266, you got 14 questions wrong on the test. Let's even presume that's how they grade it. If it's 1 point per question, they throw some questions out that are experimental, and then they grade it. Nobody really knows the exact mathematics. They won't tell us, but so guys, don't fall into that trap. It's a big one. Now Ford is asking, how long were your bathroom breaks or snack breaks?
Well, my bathroom breaks are 15 minutes. 15, 20 minutes, right? Yeah, I only took 2 breaks, so that was like 40 hours, 40 minutes in total. Actually, at the end of the exam, I still had more break time remaining. So I didn't spend all my break time. So 15, 20 minutes, yes.
Well,
And I also took breaks on my seat. Yes, that's another thing. Because a lot of people think you're taking break, you have to leave the exam, or no. I took breaks on my seat. After each block, if I'm done with the block and there's extra time, I'm gonna let that time actually run out because right. And then before I move on, sometimes even if the block runs out, I'm still gonna take an authorized break, but I'm not gonna leave. I'll sit down there and just stay, let my brain cool off, I guess, and then I continue. Yeah, so you can take breaks on your seat, right? So you don't have to leave unless you want to restroom or eat something. Honestly, you can take a break on your seat and just cool off in between blocks. Yes.
That's a big hack, guys. All right. So I did that exact same thing on my exam hall, like it's exam day. Like if there's 5 minutes left, I'm not gonna, it gives you the option to skip, like, or end the block. I use that to kind of just make sure that I answer all questions. I'm not going to change questions. Oh, another thing, let's talk about changing answers. Okay. So what's your advice about changing answers?
It's I think it still comes down to know yourself, right? The reason people change answers is because they are not sure, right, most of the time. Now I think there are two categories. There are people that their first instinct is usually the right instinct, like the right answer, and then what they change it to is usually wrong. And there are people that their first instinct is usually wrong, maybe because they read the question too fast or whatever. And then the second instinct, right, is correct when they now have time to set it down. When you're practicing, right, all those NBME forms that you're going through, you have to be, those are some of the data you have to check for yourself. Like, do I do that? And I found out that my first instinct is usually correct. So if I see a question I don't know, what I pick first is correct about 80% of the time than what I change it to. So guess what? When I go to the exam, whenever I see a question, I don't go back. I don't change it. The first thing that comes to my mind, I pick it and I move on because I know that is what works for me. So, but if the second instinct consistently works for you, so you're like 90% of the second answer I change to is correct, oh, go back, read it very well, and settle down and see if there's something. Another thing I would advise is if when we're going to NBME forms, try to figure out if there are other ways, right? You can still make a decision, right? Even if you're not sure. Maybe there's a statement there. Maybe there's a clue. Maybe there's something, right, that will still allow you to get the correct answer if you're not sure, right? So that would decrease the guesswork, right? Yeah, for you.
So wouldn't you say that if you're the person who forms to bucket two, I call them buckets. It's easier to think about buckets, right? And which bucket am I in, right? If I'm the person that I'm rushing through the questions in the first place, and if you've gone through 3,000 questions before your exam, and you are still rushing through questions, that's a big problem you need to solve with a tutor or a coach, because it's a bad habit, right? That means you are not using framework. So if you guys are not familiar, here at Smash USMLE, we use the ease method to answer questions. It's literally and I'm going to go over that once we're done, with this section right now, is that if you don't stick with a framework that keeps, it's called checks and balances. So when you guys get into residency and you start doing procedures, right? Before you do a procedure, there's a checklist of, these are all the things you need. If I want to do a laceration, right? Somebody comes to the emergency department, I want to do a laceration. I'll tell the nurse, give me a lidocaine with epinephrine or just regular lidocaine. I want my suture kit and I need my sutures, all right? And then I need, I'll get my gloves. Now, those are just the things I need to be able to go do a laceration. Now, if you're a rookie, an intern, and you don't know that when you do lacerations, sometimes when you throw the needle through, you might nick an artery or nick a vein, right? And you didn't get your suture kit available, right? And I say I need a lot of gauzes, I need this. You will find out while you're doing lacerations that if you're missing just one of the things that allow you to do a successful laceration, you're going to be flushed. Blood's going to be all over the floor. Patients are going to freak out, So that's the reason why we have checklists and frameworks, so that no matter if I'm putting a central line, is the same thing. Like, and in my head, I'm like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. If I go through that every single time, like, I 99% of the time, I'm going to get this perfectly right. Okay. That is what framework is. And because a lot of students don't understand frameworks of answering USMLE questions, and we're going to go over some of that. I'm going to share, spend about 5 minutes or 10 minutes showing some of that framework that we teach you at Smash, that if you deviate on the exam day from it, that's what's going to cause you to keep flipping your answers back and forth.
Yeah.
You agree with me, yes or no?
Yes, I agree completely. You need a system and stick to it, right, in the exam. Yes. Also, talking about time management, like when you talk about rushing through questions, I think one of the best way to kind of just make sure you're not going through fast through questions or you're not going too slow is also to have like a time strategy. For instance, one of the things I did was, because I cannot be calculating whether I've spent 90 seconds on a question or not, right? So what I did to like grossly determine if I'm on time or I'm behind time is I divide each block into a quarter, right? So we have 40 questions, 10 questions, and we have an hour. I divide the hour into 15 minutes. So I should be going through 10 questions in 15 minutes. So which means if I have 45 minutes remaining in my exam on my time on that block, I should be on at most question. I should be moving on to like question 11 at that point, not on anything below 11, right? Yeah. So, and that's how I'm able to like keep track of time and make sure that, okay, I'm not either going too fast or going too slow, and also I'm not behind, right, on time. Yes.
So, another thing I wanted to, kind of add to that is that, it's very important that you don't bring your first aid to the exam hall or your USMLE review book. What do you say to that?
Don't take any book to the exam hall. No, don't take any book to the exam hall.
How about Googling things on your phone?
No, don't do it. I mean, I think from the moment I woke up that morning of the exam, to the moment to the end of the exam, I didn't open any material. I didn't check my notes. I didn't check what I forgot or whatever. I didn't try to do any, study anything. You've been studying for so long, you've been practicing for so long. I think all those things will just bring extra anxiety. If I open my first thing and I see something new and then I forget something, I'll go and check it again. Oh, what about this one? I'll go and check it. Then anxiety starts building up before you even go to the exam, right? And you're all confused and all that. So because some of those things you're worrying about might not even be in the exam. So you just have to trust that you studied enough to see most of the questions that you're going to see, right, are familiar to you and you're going to do well. Yeah.
So Simon is asking the questions. Can you still come back to blocks you already done? Maybe to answer questions you are not able to.
No, you can't come back to block. Once the block is over, you can go back. You have to move on. Right.
Guys, once you click next block, guys, end the block, it's locked forever. Yeah. You can never go back. So know that, all right? There's no option to go back. You get one. That's why it's so important. Like, we're sharing these secrets with you because some people are not, you may be thinking, or maybe this, we're telling you everything you're going to see on the test. Like, literally, this is what will happen to you. It's happened to every single person. The only problem is you get to experience it once, or except you fail the exam, you come back again. Right. But when you go through that experience, it's one experience you actually go through one. So we're telling you all these things to prepare your mind when you guys are going into the test. So you're like, oh my God, they told me these things, right? Now here's the next question by Raj. Raj says, can you explain when you are actually taking the exam, before submitting the exam, should you be marking all questions or just go ahead without marking? That's the first question.
Should you be marking all questions?
Using the check, like, so if you don't know the answer, I think that's what he's saying.
Okay.
Like you say, like, should you use the mark if you're unsure of the answer so you can go back and check it before moving to the next block?
Oh, yeah. I mean, but pick an answer, right? So here's the thing: you mark a question you're not sure of, right? But still pick an answer before moving on. That's the thing, because you have to be prepared. If you run out of time and you cannot go back, you want to make sure you've picked something which is better than leaving it blank. So you see a question you're not sure of, pick an answer, make the best possible guess that you can make based on the data you have, pick an answer, then mark the question and move on. If at the end of the block you have time, come back and think about it. And then please know your track record, right? If you're the kind of person that falls in bucket two, the people that do well when they change their answer, then you can actually come back and spend time. But if you're on bucket one, that you know that your first instinct, even if you're not sure is correct more than the second one, I would advise you to don't change it unless you see uncontroversial evidence, right? That, okay, you are definitely wrong. Yeah. So, but pick an answer, mark it, move on. Don't leave any question unanswered, please.
Good advice. Oladejo is asking, thank you, Manuel. My UL self-assessment is much more than 240. Now, I'm going to guess that's US UL self-assessment 1.
Okay.
Better than my MBM is, which is less than 200. Maybe because I study with UWorld. My exam is in a few weeks. How do I handle this?
All right. Don't forget, UWorld, Question Bank, Ambo CTC, they are not NBME resources. No matter how much they try, right, to closely, simulate the real exam, it won't be like the real exam. So your best predictor, right, for your performance on the USMLE is going to be NBME, right? So in my case, my forms, the NBME forms that I did, I was getting I got 267, 261, 264, and I got 266 in the exam, right? So you can see best estimate. Now, the reason most people do better in UWorld than in NBME assessment is because you've been using UWorld question bank. So even if I do UWorld self-assessment, most of the assessment will be it's going to mirror the Q bank you've been doing. So the questions will look familiar to you. Then the second reason you might do less in NBM is because you overthink questions. Your questions are much more comprehensive. They put sometimes a lot of details. They try to trick you maybe. Then you get to NBM that's straightforward. You'll be like, oh, this is a trick, right? Maybe it's not this, but it's not, right? So those are going to be the two reasons why your scores might differ. So here's my advice. About a month to your exam, the only thing you should be going through is NBME. Honestly, that should be the core of your prep. That's what I did. Like a month of my exam, I didn't go to any UWorld, QBank, AMBOs. It's just NBME questions, trying to decipher, understand their style, and determine why I'm getting the questions wrong and making adjustments. So that's what you should focus on. Start doing mostly going through all those NBME forms that you've done before. That should be your major focus, few weeks to your exam, and then just let the UWorld or any other QBank be like an adjunct. But the mainstay of your study right now should be NBME forms. Yeah.
So somebody's asking a question here. Ahmed says, what's your opinion about memorizing NBME questions?
Oh my God. All right. Medical principles are everlasting, right? But ask yourself this, is there more than one way to test a principle? Yes. There are thousands of ways to test a principle. But guess what? The principle will never change. So ask yourself, right? Is it going to be easier to memorize the 1 billion ways of testing a principle than to actually understand the principle? Goes without saying, understanding the principle will be the easiest way to answer 1 billion questions. That's the best way. If I know the principle, it doesn't matter how it's asked. Whatever question it is, I'm going to get it right. So please do not memorize questions. I'm so sorry. This is not a laughing matter, but I mean, please do not memorize questions. That space that you're going to use to memorize, use it to understand the principle. You know, when you go to a question, right, you ask yourself, what is the objective of the question, please? Right? Why are they asking me this question? And understand the principle behind the question, what they are testing. Once you understand it, no matter how the question is, that principle is tested again, you're going to get it right, even if it's not the same question. But if you master the question or memorize the question, you get to the exam and you see another 100 different ways the principle is tested, you're going to get all those 100 questions wrong. Yeah. So please do not memorize.
I'm going to chip into that because I have a little sore spot. So in medical school, you know, a lot of students have there's old questions and people they pass it on and everybody memorizes the question and it shows up verbatim because some of these professors are lazy and they don't even change some of these questions and you do well. But that's not an accurate assessment of your knowledge. You don't think the NBME knows this? Like the NBME knows that people are going to do that. That's why they are retired questions. All right. There's a reason why they're giving it away for $60, right? Like they're saying, this is the style, the feel of what the exam will look like, but we're only giving you just a snippet to taste it. Go and know every information in the curriculum. There's a curriculum on the USMLE website that talks about all these fundamental facts that you are expected as a candidate to know before you show up for the exam, not what's on the NBME questions. That's not what they're saying. So a lot of students will try to say, okay, let me memorize these NBME questions because they are the one that will show up on the exam. I'm sorry, you're going to be so disappointed. You're going to be so mad at yourself. It will be the worst thing you can ever do. Please focus on mastery. I'm telling you, once you master the information, it doesn't matter what they throw at you. You will be ready. I promise you. Take that time. Don't sit there and memorize A, B, C, D. Like that's just a waste of time, guys. Please don't do that. And I know a lot of people, let's talk. This is a good segue to talk about offline NBMEs. Students have, I know some of you probably have offline NBMEs on your computer, right? Is it a good way for you to assess yourself, Emmanuel? Tell them.
It's going through offline NBME. I think it's like going through a Q bank in tutor mode, right? If you go through offline NBME, that's what I think. Yeah, because you want to see, right? It's a good way to see many possible different scenarios, right? That the exam can be tested, how the concepts can be tested, right? And try to reinforce your principles. But it's like going through a Q bank in tutor mode. In this case, you are not the tutor, right? Once you go through the question, you have to go and search for the answers yourself, right? And some people will say, I'll time myself and still, it's not the same. It's not the same, except you want to create like a perfect environment where you actually have an examiner, somebody with a stopwatch, and then you have to go through that. And yeah, but still, I think use the timed form, right? And some people buy the form untimed. No, timed form. That's why you only go through those forms when you study, right? And you want to see if your knowledge has improved. So you have to always simulate the real exam, right, as well as possible. Even when you're practicing and going to question bank, right, always assume that you might, any scenario you are facing in your Q bank practice, assume that you might face that same scenario in the real exam and figure out how you can solve the problem, right? Yeah, when you're preparing, yeah. But please, offline BME is not that accurate. Always use the timed forms. You can use the offline BME to see more scenarios, right, on how the the principles can be tested, but it's not going to be perfect, right, assessment of your knowledge. Yeah.
Felicia is asking, how would you suggest someone disperse their breaks during the step one? I think we've talked about it a little bit.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, you can, I think you should take a restroom break after 2 blocks. The reason is because if you drink coffee and stuff, and you're in a cold environment, right, your bladder is going to fill up faster. Yeah. So after first, and if it fills up in the middle of the third block, you cannot stop the break. You cannot stop in the middle of a block, right? Yeah, you can. So take a break after 2 blocks, or restroom break at least, if you're not hungry, or you can still take a little snack after that and then come back, try to do maybe 3 blocks and then take another break and then do your final 2 blocks. Yeah. But please, if you're tired, take a break. Do not keep going, because you cannot take a break in the middle of a block. So if you're tired and frustrated in the middle of the block, big problem. I think one of the reasons why people also have different scores is because of what? So a lot of people is because of stamina. I mean, the exam is rigorous. My head was literally pounding for the duration of the exam. My head was pounding as if there was like a 20-story building, right, on my head. That's how I felt. My head was so heavy. I just wanted to, every part of me wanted to give up. Serious. My cells were screaming and be like, oh, it's enough. But so you have to create that, stamina. You have to I keep telling myself that keep going. I never gave up on a question because I was tired. I never did that. Unless I don't know it, pick one, but not because I was tired or because I just want to get the exam over with. So stay in the moment. Don't look at, the time that has passed or the time that's remaining. Just stay one question at a time. Stay in the moment. Give it your best shot. You're getting tired. Stay there and keep going. Keep pushing yourself. Keep reassuring yourself. I've come this far. I can do this. And I think that's another major difference between the 260s and those that cannot achieve 260s. Just that stamina and not giving up, right, on questions.
Guys, please bring Tylenol and ibuprofen on the exam day if you have a headache. That might save your life. I promise you. Just bring some Tylenol, a little bottle, and ibuprofen. If you start having headaches, you take your break, take your Tylenol. It's gonna help you. We're giving you guys all the secrets today. We're never holding anything back. So Hadi said, I've heard of several resources for review. Please, what do you think about Lecturio, and which other resources and Q banks do you recommend?
What are you looking for, right? I mean, before you go shopping, right, you have to figure out what I'm looking for first. I believe that's the best way to find your best material. I mean, and then do a research. Every program, even though the content might be comparable, but the approach, right, and the system is different. Smash, we have a system where you have a coach, one-on-one coach. I mean, nothing can beat that, in my opinion. I mean, somebody I can just ask for opinion and advice, somebody that's done it before to guide me. I mean, that's invaluable. And then you have a lot of resources, there are videos that are tailored against, not just for those that are in med school, people that have left med school for like years ago, they're still building foundation, right? So it depends on who you are. Am I a medical student? Am I IMG? Did I just finish school? Did I finish school a while ago? Am I self-motivated, or do I need somebody to stay on my tail, right, and keep pushing me, right? So based on that, so you keep a list like who you are. So once you do that, research each program, including Smash, and see, okay, so Smash has a coach. If I'm the type that needs motivation, oh, there's a coach in Smash. Oh, there's no coach here. There's no coach there. Oh, Smash, check. I need somebody that's IMG friendly, people that have gone through a program, somebody that's left school 20 years ago and still have success story. Oh, Smash has that. Oh, I find that category. It's got to be Smash. Do you get what I'm saying? So know yourself, know what will work for you, and then go to the program, right, that will get you that. And the Smash will definitely check the list, right, for most of what you need, right, to succeed the exam.
So, and we're going to talk about Smash and what makes us different for some, for more you guys who want to make a decision today. I'm going to give you an offer that I think you guys are going to really like. So Felicia asks, will you suggest doing multiple blocks? For example, 7 blocks back to back, close to the one's one's exam date to simulate the similar situation like step 1?
I mean, I never did that, but you can. Yes, you can. You can. But I think whatever you're practicing, right? I mean, it's not something you should preparing, like creating stamina for the exam is not gonna take one simulation, right? Right. So it's gotta be something you are probably building, right, throughout your preparation. Yeah. I mean, your ability to sit for a long time and stay focused, you have to build that throughout your prep. It's not just right, because if you take a single 7-block exam, I get distracted easily. I take a single 7-block exam, I get the score I get, and that does not reassure me that I'm going to do well, right? I'll be able to maintain stamina in the exam, right? So it's something you build over time. You can also incorporate early on in your studies, start incorporating like physical exercises or something like that. Maybe taking a walk, going to the gym, etc. Please don't incorporate this a month to your exam, especially if you have not exercised before in your life. Like, you now want to start exercising a month to your exam, bad idea, right? It's too close. But early on in your prep, incorporate everything that will build stamina, exercising, eating well, sleeping well, being able to sit down and focus for a long period of time without being distracted when studying. That is what you should be building throughout your prep. And then all those things will translate, right, to the real exam. And plus the simulation too, plus to the exam, I think everything will work together. But don't count on a single simulation, right, to build stamina. Build it throughout, right, your preparation.
And obviously another thing, if you really truly want to see what it feels like, take 2 NBMEs back to back, and you will really see what 7 hours feel like. That, like, at the end of the day, if you can move a limb, give me a phone call. But for sure,
brutal.
For sure, guys, those NBMEs, those 4-hour timed mode, right? And allows you to first feel what 4 hours look like, and you double that, you're like, wow, if this is what literally 4 hours of just sitting down, block 1, take a 15-minute break, block 2, then you will start to realize, and that's another downside of taking offline NBMEs, right? You don't build any stamina at all, because you can be doing question 1 to 5 and just walk away because there's no time, right? You just be like, oh, I'm going to take a break, I'll come back, right? On the exam day, you're not going to have that, right? And then you're going to be in shock, like what's about to happen to you, right? So we're giving you all this valuable information because we want you to be aware of the unknowns, right? What you know is the information you have control right now over how you study, how you prepare, how you master the information. That's the only thing you can control. We're telling you things that are out of your control that you may not anticipate, right? And they may throw you off your game because everything that's happened in your own environment at home the entire time of your prep. For a whole year, you'll have your own table and chair and your computer. And then we're going to take you away from there, all right, and take you to the exam center. If you really want to actually feel well, I've actually recommended to some students, and the Prometric Center offers like a day if you want to come take an NBME at the center. Like you actually can book a time and go take an NBME assessment inside the Prometric Center. Like they have that option. I think you have to pay for it. But if you really want to see what it feels like, the temperature, like seeing what the weather feels like, the camera, and that experience, that is your best and the closest experience to take an NBME at the Prometric Center. You know, you don't have to do it, but if you truly want to know, that's exactly how I would definitely recommend that. Now, Angie's asking, how do you recommend Anki flashcards?
All right. Flashcards build what? Active recall, right? That's what we use flashcards for. It's basically building memory. Remember what we said, your goal of the exam is to apply knowledge, right? But first, you cannot apply what you don't know. So you acquire knowledge, and then you have to be able to remember the knowledge to be able to apply it, right? So, and that is where active recall comes. So flashcards comes into play after I've acquired knowledge, right? I've acquired knowledge and understanding. That's where flashcards comes, not before. Some people spend most of their study time on flashcards without understanding. Please, no, you're doing it wrong. So build the knowledge first, understand, and then you now want to build memorization, right, with your active recall through flashcards. Yeah. And that is why another added advantage of taking notes, the way I suggested, is that your note itself is like a flashcard. So I'm creating questions instead of just writing facts. I can use that too for active recall, and then you can use your flashcards too, right, for active recall. But it comes after knowledge acquisition, right, and understanding, not before, right?
Esham says, can I take step 2 CK before step 1? I'm too far studying for step 2, but it's so sometimes frustrating when I see a biochemistry question and a smash video enough to understand step 2 concepts.
All right, let me put it this way. Medicine, right, as a career is like a story building. If your foundation is your basics, if you have a foundation, then you can build a first floor, maybe step 2 CK. You build step 3, second floor, then you build maybe residency, PGY1, PGY2, etc. So imagine if the foundation is not strong. Do you think the story building can go all the way to like 100 floor? No. That is why I will always advise people to take step 1 first before step 2, because it's your foundation. Believe me, it's much more easier to study for step 2 when you have a foundation than it is to study for step 2 without the foundation. Because what step 2 is a continuation, not a different exam. It's a continuation. You are trying to build on that foundation. So I know my principle, foundation principle. Now I'm moving on to like patient management. I'm trying to build on that. That's what step 2 is. So without step 1, it's difficult. So if you can, take step 1 first, right? Then build, then take step 2 CK. That would be my advice.
I always tell students, that's exactly what I say. I say, if you go to US medical school, you don't take step 2 CK before step 1. We don't do that. The only luxury IMGs do have is that they allow you to take this exam in whatever order. And I think they're changing that come next year or so, right? Because there's a reason why it's fundamentally 1, 2, 3, not 2, 1, 3 or 2, 3, 1. Like there's a reason for it, right? And if you, and I think that and I hear both sides of the argument. I'm already a doctor. I'm practicing already. You know, I know my basic. I know my clinical knowledge. My basic is not as great, but my clinical knowledge is good because I've been managing patients. So I think it's better to take a clinical exam than a basic science exam. And yes, it's a valid thing for you to say, but you didn't train here. That's just a fact. That doesn't neglect the fact. Are there people that have taken step 2 before step 1 passed and did well? Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen it. But you got to know yourself, right? And if you do actually take it in the right order and put in the maximum amount of effort, you're going to see the results regardless. Like you're going to see the amount of jump in your knowledge gap that you have from step 1. And when step 2 comes into play, you're like, oh, those are the same diseases on step 1. It's literally, we're testing you guys on the exact disease that you mastered in step 1 with what is the next step in management, what's the next best step, what's the initial test, what's the most accurate test. That is what step 2 CK is about. On the same disease you master step, diabetes is diabetes, hypertension is hypertension, cholesterol, high cholesterol is the same thing. The only thing we took out of step 2 CK was those genetic mutations. And, you know, like we took away all those biochemical pathways that's not necessary. Like maybe a few of them that are relevant, but majority of the biochem is gone. Genetics is gone, right? And, you know, those GS subproteins and cyclic AMP pathways. We took all that stuff from step 1 away because these are just basic application of basic knowledge. of basic science. But then we're like, okay, this is the clinical application of the knowledge that you gain from step one. Now how can you take care of your patient now? What's the best drug of choice? What's the next step in managing? And you cannot know. And can you tell them how long the clinical vignettes on step 2 CKR?
Oh my God, they're long. They are. Most of the questions, they're as long as the longest U-word questions, right, that you've seen. Super long. And that's why having a system is so important. Because if you don't have a system, bad idea. In fact, most of the questions, I had to approach them backwards using ease. So I didn't just start from the beginning. I had to read the last question from our ease method. Dr. Ishan will talk to you about that. And then I actually go through the labs, go through the image, work my way back up. And most of the time, before I get up, I see the answer, I move on. If I don't see the answer, then I will now go back and start from the beginning and try to organize. But yeah, so you have to create a system that works. Yeah, so those questions are very, very long, super long, super long. Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to be, we know step 1 is going pass fail, right? And step 2 CK is going to be new step 1. So now, you guys who are going to take step 1 in January next year, literally in 2 months from now, are going to not get a score, and I know a lot of people are scared. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm an IMG. How am I going to compete with other US grads? Well, here's the thing. US grads are going to take the pass fail too. So you're not the only one. So let's just get that out of the way. Like, there's nothing special about anyone anymore. It just means, but let's address this elephant in the room. If you want to match into dermatology, and even you're a United States resident going to a US medical school from Harvard, you're going to get a pass fail on step 1, right? But you want to match into dermatology, right? Which is one of the top specialties, or neurosurgery. Now, if we have 2 applicants, y'all both took step 1 and got a pass. There's no way for me to distinguish between both of you guys.
Yeah.
That's why step 2 now becomes super critical for every single person in the game, regardless whether you're an IMG or you're a non-US IMG. It doesn't matter. Now, the only thing is the average on step 2 CK right now is 240, 242 actually, which is a little scary, right? So for us IMGs, guys, we got work to do. You got to prove yourself, which means your step 1 has to be solid, super good, to make sure you're cracking above 240s now on step 2 CK, because 240 is not the average, right? So we're going to see a big jump in step 2 CK scores over the next 2 or 3 years. That's my prediction, because people are going to be like, well, I'm just getting pass fail. These guys from Harvard and Yale and from all those US medical schools and in other IMGs, the competition is going to rise, because we used to use step 1 to separate ourselves from others. Like, I got a 250 on step 1. If you got a 250 also in the US, as a US student, say, listen, look, we're comparable. So program directors will have no other choice than making sure that your step 2 CK score is what they're using. Now, the other thing is, you guys may have to start taking step 3 now. Before, you don't have to take step 3 to apply. Now, to become more competitive, you'll have to, maybe not this year, because next year it's fine. Everybody's still gonna have a score. Don't worry. People are applying for this cycle are gonna have a score. People are applying for the next cycle. Some of them, will have a score. Some won't have a score. So it's gonna be mixed. I think 2-3 years down the line, that's gonna be the pass fail was really kicking full time for everyone. But the reality for us is, for us IMGs, guys, you need to understand and mastery of the game, so that you're getting a high step 2 CK score and also getting a very good step 3 score. So now most US students will not take step 3. They won't take it. They will not. They will just take step 2 CK, get very good clinical grades and good letter for recommendations, which means you guys have to do more clinical rotations to prove yourself, because that letter of recommendation is going to be so critical for you guys to match, so that when you apply for residency, you have a letter of recommendation for your physician that have validated, evaluate your clinical skills aside from your numbers, because it's not just about numbers, guys. So I want to give you guys advice for the future, so you guys know what's happening in 2022. Everybody right now, be taking notes. This is the game. We tell you things before they happen, so you are not caught off guard, so you are matching the competition. Okay? All right. Now, we're having so many questions, which I don't think we can get to every single question. We're already running almost 1 hour, 20 minutes, and I haven't even got to quickly show you guys the ease method. I'm just going to quickly look at one. If there's still a chance to take step 1 scored, how do we gauge what score range we should be in to go for that numeric score rather than pass fail? And will it be especially disadvantaged to apply next cycle with a pass-fail when there's a mixed pool? Well, I'll take that. So guys, if you're not able to score 230, 240 by January, please don't take the test. I'm just gonna make it simple for you. It doesn't even matter. If your preparation right, guys, we're in November. If you have not studied well enough right now and your preparation is not strong enough to get above a 220, 230, 240 for a numerical score before pass-fail, take an NBME. If it's below that, forget about it, take pass-fail, because you're better having the pass-fail score because everybody will have it, a pass score, then get a lower score like a 189 or 194, and then you're walking out with a 194 where you just got a pass and moved on and get a higher competitive score for step 2 CK. Okay, so that's what I'll give you guys advice, and it's not a disadvantage because you're not the only one to apply with a pass fail. Okay, and Rodinal said, what advice do you have for me, please? I'm about to finish with cardio, GI, immune, hematology questions in UWorld, and I'm about to take an MBME. What method should I use to keep up and not forget what I already studied while I'm watching videos for other classes to build? So here's what I'll tell you. Listen, when you take your MBME, if you have actually finished cardio, GI, immune system, and hematology, you should have good foundation. And your MBME score report will reflect that, okay? If it doesn't reflect it, you don't know the information well enough. Maybe you need a tutor to help you, okay? I'm going to quickly share my screen with you guys because I want to share this. This is super important. We're just going to quickly run over it. I want to show you the system we use here at Smash USMLE that makes us completely different from any other program on the planet, okay? And I'm literally sharing with you guys so you guys know why Smash USMLE is literally the leading USMLE prep course. Let me see if I've got the right page here for you guys. Where's the QBank? There you go. All right, let me know if everybody can see my screen. Just to drop a yes in the chat. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. All right, I just want to make sure. Just say yes in the chat so I can know. All right, good, great. So guys, this is a question, all right? This is from Smash USMLE question. You probably heard Emmanuel and I talking about the EASE method that we use here as a framework. We wanted to kind of talk about the exam first so that when I'm talking about this framework and see why it is super important, because if we wanted you to know how important mastering this framework is so that you don't end up falling into that pitfall, right? We've talked about the pros and the cons and how you guys can maximize your chances on the USMLE. So we're all going to answer these questions together. So drop the answer in the chat. But I want to show you how we apply something called the EASE method. So the EASE method is called examine, find the associations, summary, and examine, find the association, summarize, and then ensure that you're picking the right answer. It's really that simple. Now, when you guys look at any questions in the QBank, the first thing is you want to kind of look at the last line, right? Which of the following is most likely cause of patient presentation, all right? And I always highlight it because it kind of tells me, all right, okay, that's, no matter what happens in this question, that's the final question, right? And then I quickly glance at the options, right? When you glance at the options, what it does is, because there's so much information in you guys' brain when you're studying, right? EMONC, GI, respiratory, like you don't know what they're trying to ask you. And the biggest pitfall a lot of students do is they want to read the question from the top. I don't know why they're doing that, because then you're guessing the mindset of the examiner. If you look at this, lead, garlic, arsenic, carbon monoxide, mercury, I'm thinking some kind of, this is gonna, and then you have to force yourself to do this. What specific topic is this testing in the textbook? And you have to be very specific. Now, this takes time. So lead, garlic, arsenic, I'm thinking some kind of toxic metal toxicity. You see, now it doesn't matter what happens at this end of this case. The only thing that's going to happen is this is going to be some kind of toxic metal question. You see how easy it is? Now you don't have to worry or guess, is it cardio? Is it going to be GI? I don't know. It doesn't matter, right? Now you can start at the beginning, and guys, just follow what I'm doing. This highlight functionality that they put in the QBank was not a mistake. All right. Students don't even realize that the exam is designed to help you pick the best answer and answer the best, to pick the best correct answer for every question. So every tool they put in there was specifically researched to make sure the examination experience allows you to take the best answer. Okay. So always use a highlight a highlight functionality. 25-year-old woman returning from a 4-day stay in Africa, complaining of vomiting and diarrhea. On further examination, you notice her breath smells like garlic. Biochemical studies reveal that she's deficient in a key compound in the Krebs cycle. Blood smear shows normal red blood cells, right? And she denies any exposure to fire. Now I can say, all right, which of the following is the most likely cause of this patient presentation? Now, I want you to show you is the first step that I did. I'm going to write this on the screen for you. Is I did E, which is I did examine the stem and all the answer choices. All right, that's the first step of E's method. Right, it's supposed to make it answering question easy. All right, that's even how we came up with these E's. And then the next thing is I'm going to find the associations, right, inside this question to find anything related to the question that can allow me to be able to pick my answer. Well, they gave me a 25-year-old female, right? They're telling me she came from Africa and she's having vomiting and diarrhea, some kind of gastroenteritis, right? But her breath smells like garlic. And it looks like, when they did a biochemical study, she's deficient in a key compound in the Krebs cycle, but she has normal red blood cells and she has no exposure to fire, right? So now the next step is I need you to summarize. Now I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Summary takes skill, all right? And I'll tell you how important learning how to summarize a case is on the exam. No matter how long the clinical vignette is, you can always summarize it to 2 lines. And I know a lot of students are saying that's impossible. Let me tell you what will happen to you when you guys become an attendant, all right? So let's say I have a case of a 25-year-old female, came in abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, complaint of right lower quadrant abdominal pain, fever, anorexia, has not been eating for days, right? And she's got tenderness in the McBurney's point, right? And I did a CT scan that shows periappendical stranding, right? With periappendical inflammation with a dilated appendix. White blood cell count is 12,000. Lactic acid is maybe like 4 or 2. And I give you all this lab work, right? And I said, what's the diagnosis? It's like acute appendicitis, right? And what do? It's patients getting antibiotics and laparoscopic cholecystectomy. You see, everything I just said to you is going to be written on the screen. In the real world, the patient is going to sit in front of you. They're going to give you a history. You're going to do history, review your systems. You're going to do a physical examination, and then you're going to write your plan, right? Order lab tests, and you're going to come up with your plan, assessment and plan. And in the assessment and plan, you're going to come up with differential diagnosis, and your differential is going to have specific lab work that you have to order. And then you come up with a final diagnosis, and then you say, this is the management. Now, when I pick up the phone and talk to a surgeon, I say, Dr. Joe, I've got a 25-year-old female here with right lower quadrant abdominal pain. She has acute appendicitis. I already gave her like, cefoxitin, and patient is ready to go to the operating room. That's called summarization. You think the surgeon wants me to tell them every single story the patient came in with? No. But of course, I'm an attendant now. It's taking me years to get to that level. You have to look at your Q bank just like as patients. And you have to be able to force yourself to summarize cases so that you can say, yes, they give me all this information, but what is the most important point, right? What's the most important diagnosis? So now I'm going to summarize this case. 25-year-old female from Africa, came with nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and has breath that smell like garlic, right? And has some biochemical compound that's missing. That's it, right? And why is the patient, what's the diagnosis? Now I've summarized the case. Now, if you don't have knowledge, if you have knowledge deficit, this is what Emmanuel was talking about previously. When people jump into question banks without any knowledge, guess what? An empty brain does not think of anything. It's just simple, guys. If there's nothing in your brain, there's nothing for you to extrapolate data from. Why? It's very important to get knowledge acquisition. Because if you don't acquire knowledge, you're going to waste the entire question bank. You're going to go through the motions of go through a question bank knowing nothing. And then you're going to be frustrated over and over. And you're going to say, my scores are too low. My scores are too low. Yes, because your knowledge gap, you have knowledge deficit. This is why I made Emmanuel go over this at the beginning of our presentation. And now I'm practically showing you what will happen. If you don't know your biochemistry, you are not going to be able to answer this question, right? Now, the next thing is, you see inside the associations, you want to find out why this, to pick the right answer. If you know the answer, you can pick the answer and move on. But if you don't know, you can look at this. They say the patient has normal red blood cells and has no exposure to fire. If they have no exposure to fire, that already rule out carbon monoxide poisoning, right? Because if they're going to test your carbon monoxide, it's going to be somebody exposed to fire, right? If somebody has normal red blood cells, Guys, what kind of anemia does lead toxicity cause? Put it in the chat. What kind of anemia do you see with lead toxicity? I'm looking for answers. Anyone? Anyone want to put the correct answer? When they on the board exam, they're going to tell you if your patient ingested lead, they're going to come with mental retardation. They're going to have, gingival thickening. They're going to have, some abdominal pain. They're going to have some, So what kind of anemia always shows up when patients have lead toxicity? Okay, I see here, Esham says, let's say, Rodina says sideroblastic anemia. Absolutely correct. That's an important fact for you to know, because if you don't even realize that patients that have lead toxicity, they develop sideroblastic anemia, they have something called a ring sideroblasts that you're going to see on their peripheral smear. It's in your hematology section, right? So by the default, when you say patient has a normal red blood cells, it cannot be lead. And of course, the answer is not garlic. We're not testing your garlic in the exam. Right now, this is what I call the process of elimination that you can use when you take the exam, and you can say, okay, I'm down to arsenic and mercury, right? Okay, let's assume you don't know the answer. Guys, you pick your best educated guess and you move on. I know this is hard for a lot of you guys, like the traditional, but take your best educated guess and move on. And you know what? Click this check mark right here for me. When you click the check mark, it means you are not sure, but at least you've picked an answer. Does that make sense? Now, as long as you go through the entire block of questions, you can always come back here and say, reread the question again and say, did I read anything in first aid that pointed to garlic? Is anything in first aid for the USMLE book while I was studying? And I'm about to blow you guys' mind right now. Okay, let me show you exactly what I meant, right? I am going to show you a trick. Let me clear this. Let me share my screen again. I gotta reshare my screen. All right, so because we're almost done. So here's first aid, okay? I'm gonna type in the word garlic into first aid. Boom, okay? I'm gonna search for garlic because it looks like they're asking something about garlic, right? I don't know why they're asking me about garlic, but, oh, wait a minute. Oh, look at that. There's garlic in first aid, right there. Can everybody see that? Oh, pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. They're talking about arsenic inhibits lipoic acid. So arsenic poisoning will give you pigmentary skin changes, skin cancer, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Oh, it sounds like a woman that just went to Africa. It also causes QT prolongation with garlic breath. The problem is if you highlight in first aid, by just reading this, it makes nothing. I put it in a clinical case for you now. Now you realize that the information you need to know is not about garlic. It's about arsenic toxicity. That a patient that has arsenic toxicity is going to have garlic breath because they ingest it into their mouth, and when they belch, it kind of smells in their breath. Now, there's more. The next level you have to ask yourself is, what the hell is lipoic acid? And then if you don't even know where lipoic acid is, that means you do not understand pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. So now you identify your next weakness. It's like, what does pyruvate dehydrogenase do? Well, that is the enzyme between the glycolysis and TCA cycle. And that enzyme is super critical, right? Because it requires 5 coenzymes. So now the question you ask yourself, do I know all the 5 coenzymes that this complex requires? Thiamine, which is vitamin B1, lipoic acid, but then coenzyme A, vitamin B5, FAD, vitamin B2, NAD. Guys, it's actually really easy. It's just vitamin B1, B5, B2, and B3. It needs 4 vitamins and lipoic acid. And you know the mnemonic is tender, loving care for Nancy. Tender, loving care for Nancy. So you remember pyruvate dehydrogenase. Oh my God. Then the next question is, do I even understand what happens between pyruvate and acetylcoenzyme A? You see, that's your next knowledge deficit. You got to go back here to this chart and say to yourself, oh, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about lipoic acid, but I did not know that when pyruvate gets here, after I metabolize glucose and I make acetylcoenzyme A before it goes into the TCA cycle, number 14 in first aid, right there. This enzyme required tender, loving care for Nancy. Now, you might think you're done. You are not. Because lipoic acid, right, is required for this enzyme to function. That's another knowledge gap you're missing. Then you say, okay, I know lipoic acid and all these vitamins, if they are missing, this enzyme will not work. It needs all of them to function, right? Then what happens next? You got to force yourself. And you say, well, if this enzyme doesn't work, now this reaction goes backwards. I'm going to build up pyruvate and I'm going to build in a bunch of lactic acid. Now I cannot undergo glycolysis. But why? Then you force yourself to the next level. Because if I don't go through TCA cycle, I cannot make any ATP. If I don't make any ATP, what happens? My cells do not function, right? My sodium potassium ATPase pumps requires ATPs to function. Now you say, oh, well, that must be important. So if I'm accumulating pyruvate inside my stomach because I ate arsenic, it's inhibiting, right, glycolysis, all the food I'm actually eating, right? Because the lady ate rice and chicken, but the carbohydrates, which is the glucose, which came from rice, is not going to be able to metabolize. Now, all of a sudden, this patient is having toxicity. They now develop GI symptoms of arsenic inside the GI tract. You see how deep the level of knowledge is. It's more than memorizing just arsenic. That is what separates people who get a 260 from somebody who gets a 220 or somebody who get a failed the exam. Because you see how I'm forcing myself to keep asking myself why and why. And now let's say you get stuck here. Like, remember Emmanuel said something. He said, be honest with yourself. What don't you know? Write the facts on the side and then ask questions. Write the facts and ask questions. Now the question is, do I even understand glycolysis pathway? If the answer is no, it doesn't matter how hard you try to push past that. You are never going to be successful because you are failing to address the elephant in the room because you're scared of glycolysis. Go watch a video that I made about glycolysis, and the only thing you need to know is glycolysis. So once you master glycolysis, master pyruvate to acetic coenzyme A, and then master acetic coenzyme A to TCA cycle, now you have a better big picture to work with. And know all the enzymes that are important, that require any cofactors, vitamins inside this pathway. And then it doesn't matter what they throw at you. That's why memorizing NBME question is a waste of your time. Because now it doesn't matter how they want to test me from glycolysis all the way to TCA cycle, I am ready for you. And if you have to physically write the pathways down yourself. That is what I call active learning, guys. Active learning. A lot of students do passive learning. You have to get uncomfortable. You see the pain, when you're feeling pain and anxiety and stress, you are growing. When you're just reading passively, you're like, oh, let me see. Okay, just glucose, a little glucose 6-phosphate. I guess glucose 6-phosphate there, something, and then pyruvate. That's called passive learning. It will bite you in the butt. You're going to hate yourself. You have to force yourself throughout the whole study cycle so that when you hit the roadblock, you break through, and then you go to the next pinpoint and to the next deficiency and the next deficiency. You get to the point that there's no more deficiency in your knowledge. When you take the exam, there's nothing the NBME can bring at you. There's absolutely no question that the USMLE exam can bring at you. You will be able to answer them. Now, I took just a simple question. Now that you guys know the answer, right? Because I see a lot of people just jump to conclusion. Hey, arsenic. I'm like, that's good. But did you know everything I just talked about? Did you remember that? Do you know that when I test you on the next question, I'm gonna put the same case and I'm gonna put an EKG with a prolonged QT of 450 or 417 the question. Did you know the next question I'm going to give you, I'm going to put a picture of skin cancer of the same case of this lady that came from Africa that took arsenic, and I'm going to put a skin cancer diagnosis, and that's your next answer. Did you know that the next time I ask you about this question, I can throw as many ways of testing you on the same question? I have as many, but even though I have unlimited, I have a lot of possibility, it's still limited. Because at some point, I run out of options of how I can test you, right? I can test you on the poisoning of arsenic. I can test you on lipoic acid. I can test you on the next question will pyruvate dehydrogenase question. I'll just say, which of the following biochemical enzymes is arsenic working on? And then I'll put pyruvate dehydrogenase, I'll put pyruvate carboxylase, I'll put methylmalonic acid, I'll put all that stuff in there for you. Fructose 1,6-phosphate. And you're like, which one? You see? It's the same formula. This is how we write NBME questions. This is how we write USMLE questions. Say, okay, there's 10 ways of writing a question on arsenic, test them on any of them. Anyway, possible. Are you guys getting this? Is this making sense? Right? Is this making sense to you guys? Say yes in the chat, right? So we wanted to bring this session for you guys. We actually went over time. It's almost an hour, 45 minutes. Now, how many of you would like to join Smash USMLE today? Because I would like to give you guys a special offer, okay? If you like the way, what we do here is we teach you the mindset of the exam. That's what separates Smash USMLE from everybody else in the industry. We know the exam inside and out. We'll tell you everything you need to know. But the hallmark is you're going to get a personal coach. If you guys want a personal coach like Emmanuel to work with you guys today, so some of you guys who are not part of the program, I want you to say yes in the chat because I'm going to give you a link, all right, where I want you to sign up for Smash USMLE today, all right? And I'm going to give an offer that we don't even ever give, okay? I'm going to give you a bonus extra 1 hour of coaching for free, all right? If you sign up today, normally, like if you sign up for the 1 year plan, and I'm going to share with you our plans, if you sign up for the 1 year plan, you only get 2 hours. If you sign up for the lifetime plan today, you're going to get 3 hours. We don't do that. Okay. That offer is just for today only. If you sign up for the 6 month plan, you're going to get 2 hours of coaching, right? Instead of 1 hour. And if you sign up for the 3 month package, you don't normally get any coaching. I'm going to give you 1 bonus hour. Okay. And if you want to work directly with Emmanuel himself, I'm also going to give that opportunity for you to work with him also one-on-one. How many want to work with Emmanuel? Say yes in the chat. Okay. If you want to work with him, and he will train you and teach you exactly how to study the right way and show you, look, we've only spent almost 1 hour, 45 minutes. There's so much for us to get to. We can't even answer all your questions, but he's going to meet with you like this on Zoom, one-on-one, and any question you have on the planet, step 1, step 2, CK, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity. So I'm going to share with you the page where you guys can sign up for the program. Okay. So I'm going to drop it for the, for you guys. And some of you guys might be like, you know what? Is this really worth it? Listen, guys, this will shortcut your process of studying for the USMLE and cut your time by 50%. Like just the fact that you're getting a personal coach to work with you will cut your study time alone by 50%. We also have tutoring here at Smash USMLE, and I'm going to share my screen with some of you, for you guys, and I'm going to put the link in here for you all. Let me go here. Okay, so I'm giving those who want to sign up with the program today just a one-time opportunity. This will never happen again. I'm telling you, this is it. All right. So this is the page where you come to the page where to sign up for the program. All right. We have 3 options. If you want one-on-one tutoring and you want to work with Emmanuel, one of our lead master tutors, okay, I'm going to give you that opportunity. Okay. Now this is our plan. We have a 4-week live hybrid masterclass course with a self-paced course. The masterclass is nothing like you've ever seen before. Like, I think you guys who are already who took my masterclass, can you put some comments in there just to let the people who are in the group who may not be aware, like how good the masterclass is. Like, just think about first aid on steroids. Like we cover 30 days, literally in 30 days, 85 to almost 90% of what's in first aid, system by system, from the beginning of first aid to the end, right? In 30 days, but it's integrated. Like if I'm talking about cardio, we're talking about GI, we're talking about renal, like it's an integrated system because that's how you're supposed to know for the USMLE, okay? And it's a 4-week live hybrid if you're studying for step 1 or step 2 CK. We do cover a lot of step 2 CK in there, except like emergency medicine, or pediatrics and, surgery. I do have a self-paced lecture for those. So if you're taking step 2 CK and you take the master class or step 3, then you need to use, the additional self-paced course. We give some of those materials so you have access to that. Okay. You also get my lecture notes. It's actually about almost 1,800 pages, but we've condensed it to about 780 pages. Right. You're gonna get access to that PDF. You're gonna get step 1 quizzes. All right. So for those of you who joined the masterclass, there's a quiz for you to do at the end of class. All right. You're gonna get a coach one-on-one. Like literally, if you sign up right now, like I said, it's only the people that sign up right now. I'm gonna give this offer. I'm never gonna give this offer again. Okay. If you want to work with Emmanuel or one of our master coach tutors, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to get an additional. Listen, coaching is $125 an hour, and the price is about to go up by the end of the month. So I'm giving you a free additional 1 hour of coaching. You can use it for coaching or tutoring. It doesn't matter to me, but we're going to throw that as an additional bonus for people who want to join the program today. All right. Don't call me tomorrow. Don't email my staff. Don't say, oh, Dr. Additional, you give this offer. I want to, it's just for the people who are ready to commit. One of the most important thing for you guys who want to do well in USMLE is you have to commit to the process. right? I'm gonna also give you access to my Smart MD WhatsApp group. How many of you guys are in the Smart MD WhatsApp group? How do you guys like it? I think we have some students in the class. You guys get weekly motivation from it, right? Sometimes even more than that. Literally, where and I give you like advice and tips of the day, like every week. Like that's priceless. You also become part, you get daily questions that my staff posts. There's a question in the morning for you to answer, and in the evening we post the answers every single day, 365 days a week, a year. Oh my gosh, there is no program in the world that does that. Like, if you know it, give me a call, let me know in our WhatsApp group. You also part of people who want to be successful. We celebrate our successes. Just last month or 2 months ago, we had like almost 5 or almost 10 people already pass step 1 and step 2 CK. Everybody's passing the USMLE every month when they come to the USMLE course. Why? Because we motivate you, we give you the information. You know, a lot of you guys are studying at home and it can be depressing, right? There's nobody to motivate you. There's nobody to tell you what to do. You're kind of alone. You feel depressed. You don't get motivated. We motivate you to keep going because I know how hard this stuff is, right? So you're also going to get also access to my, aside from the WhatsApp group, all right, you're gonna get access to my entire self-paced course. For those of you guys who actually joined the program, if you took the Step 2 CK plan, I'm gonna give you a copy of our YOG Step 2 CK. This is the best Step 2 CK and Step 3 book in the world, period. Better than Master the Boards, and I've read them all. It's very comprehensive. You get a free copy of the book, okay? So the price, all right, for the 1-year plan is $14.97. All right, you get all these bonuses. All right, the value alone is almost over, almost $9,000 in value, but you only get it for one-time price of $14.97 today, right? Or 3 easy payments of $5.97. I put the link in the chat for you guys there. So if you want to sign up, listen. If you sign up right now, one of my staff will contact you so we can give you. You're gonna get a link to sign up for coaching, and we're gonna throw in that additional hour. Like I said, we don't give those 1 extra hour. Okay, that's only people who are ready to commit right now. 1 payment of $14.97 or 3 easy payments of $5.97. When you click on this page, all right, you have an option to pick either the combination package. I always recommend the $14.97 because some students will start to sign up for the master class and Dr. Addition, I don't have access to your QBank. I don't have access to your, videos, your Smart MD video lectures. I don't have access to this because that's a whole different package alone on itself. Okay. And if you just want access to the self-paced course, you're like, you know what? I don't want the master class. I just want to join the self-paced course only. That's a one-time payment of $9.97 or 2 easy payments of $5.97. Okay, just click on the link. I've dropped the link for those of you who want to sign up for the package right now. Like I said, once we end this webinar, like that offer is gone, right? If you don't sign up, it's over. Don't call me. You're gonna get the regular price. Okay. Now, some of you are saying, I've seen some people posting a question like, I want to work with Dr. Emmanuel. I want him to tutor me. I want him to work with him one-on-one. Listen, here's what I'm gonna do for you guys. All right. Here's just click on this link right here on the page. Like, I want tutoring one-on-one, and I'm going to show you exactly what to do if you want to work with Dr. Emmanuel. Okay. He already has a lot of students, so he's only taking a limited amount of students right now. So, only the first 5 people that sign up for tutoring will get access to him. If you don't get access, then I'm going to have to assign you to someone else. Okay. So let me show you exactly how to sign up with him. All right. When you go to this page, right, our hourly rate right now is $125 an hour. The price is going to go up. It's probably going to double at the end of the month. So I'm giving you this as a special offer. All right. So you can get an individual hour if you just want individual hours. Let's say you want just 5 hours. You can pick it right here. And then you go right here and pick your exam and say, okay, I'm studying for step 1. And then you pick your tutor. You can see all our tutors here, but if you truly want to work with Dr. Emmanuel, like I said, only the first 5 people we're going to allow. After that, we're not going to allow anybody to sign it. We have to assign, and we have top-notch tutors that can work with you. Don't worry, we have enough tutors for everybody. I know some of you guys are saying, oh, I want to work with Dr. Emmanuel. That's fine. So you just, right here, you scroll down, you pick his name, Emmanuel R&D MD, and then you just make the payment, one-time payment, and we lock you in right now. So for those of you guys who still want to work with him, we will get you in. But like I said, 5 students and that's it. All right. Now, if you want a bundle and you want to save 20%, click on this button right here. And then you can save in 20% on our entire bundle package. All right. So we have 10-hour packages for $1,200, 20 hours for $2,300, 40 hours for $4,000, and 50 hours for $5,000. Now, if you want this package today, here's what I'm going to do for the people who want to sign up for the bundle. Only the bundle packages only. I'm going to throw in 2 additional hours of tutoring for people who sign up for the bundle today. Like right now, if you go to the website and sign up for the bundle and you want to work with Dr. Emmanuel, just select his name right here. But after the first 5 people, we're going to shut it down and we're going to have to reassign you. Even if you pick his name, we're going to have to reassign because we only take the first 5. But the only extra I'm giving is 2 free hours. So that's $250 I'm giving you guys in addition. So you get 2 free hours additional. So if you sign up for 10 hours, you get 12 hours. If you sign up for 20, you get 22. If you sign up for 40, you get 42 hours. If you sign up for 50, you get 52 hours. But that's offers just right now during this webinar. So if you want that offer, take it right now. Click on that link I've provided for you guys in the chat. I'm going to see, I think a couple of people have a few more questions. Let me see here. And, like I said, listen, if you truly want to be successful, invest in yourself. Like the best investment you guys can make is in yourself. Like a lot of people say, oh, like how much does it cost? Like I don't have the money. Put it on a credit card. Seriously, like you guys understand, it cost me $300,000 to go to medical school. $300,000. That is the education I got that made me a doctor. So I always tell students, like, will I say, oh my God, I don't want to spend $300,000 because it's too much, plus interest. They give me 30 years to pay back. You know what? Right now, I'm an attending physician. Was it worth the investment? 1,000%. I just went through biochemistry with you guys. When I was a college student, I couldn't do that. I didn't know what that meant, right? So you guys see that because I acquired knowledge. You can never underestimate the amount of money you invest in your brain. People buy clothes, shoes, watches, things that are not, they're not even valuable, right? They lose their value. But what you put in your brain, nobody can. Look at Emmanuel. Like he knows all this stuff in his brain. You think he can go away? Like you can. Listen, the only way, if somebody dies, is the way you lose your knowledge. Once you know the information, no one can ever take it away from you. The only thing I need from you guys right now is your commitment. Like I want you to commit to the program. Like this program is not, it's not magic. Okay, so let me put a caveat. It's not magic. If you don't put in the work, you are not going to see the results, right? Everything we give you guys this webinar today, it requires work. But I promise you 1,000%. If you want to be part of the people like this, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you see all these people. These are these are some of our tutors, and these are the students that matched last year. This is Taylor. She failed step 1, and then she's matched. She's a family medicine resident. Barbara failed step 2 CK. Rashida failed step 1, failed even multiple times. They all matched today. Amanda got a 232. She might EMIM. These are all the video testimonials from all our students. Here's our score report. Look, Suresh got 248. Dr. Fabrizio got a 242. These are all the students that come to our Smash USMLE program. Lions got a 245. These are students that, and Emmanuel is coming out. Some of them were getting like 120s on their MBMEs when they joined the program. I remember Dr. Warner, he's from Mexico. He doesn't even speak English. And, he said he got a 120, was about to give up before he joined the program. He joined Smash USMLE. He got a 245 by the time. He spent 1 year studying with us. This is a success story, but I need your commitment. I need your dedications. I need you to commit. Listen, the first step is for you to commit. Don't even overthink it, right? If you commit today, you are going to be successful. I will never let you fail. I will be there for you the whole way, period. My tutors are going to be there for you. My staff is going to be there for you. Listen, you contact Paula like, I can't log in or something like that. Listen, 24 hours, we respond to you right away, except Sunday when we're closed. Like I'm in the WhatsApp group every day, responding to questions. If a student has an issue, right? We're there, we're committed. You know why? Because we know you need the support. So if you want to be part of the most successful people on the planet, commit right now. Click that link I put in the chat. I'm gonna drop the link again, okay? And just click the link and enroll. Like I said, the bonuses are only for the people who are ready to take their studying to the next level and be successful, okay? All right. So if you want more, if you want to be more successful, if you want more coaching, you want more tutoring, you haven't joined the masterclass, or you haven't joined the self-paced course, or you haven't committed, and you want to be part of the successful people this year or going to next year, click on the link, and I can't wait to work with each and every one of you. So that's all we've got for you today. Dr. Emmanuel, you're doing an amazing job, by the way. Oh my goodness, you give so much value. Guys, can we give him a round of applause, please? Just say thank you, just to thank him for even his time to come and work with us today. Just the amount of advice that you've given us today. It's priceless. If you're not taking notes, guys, I don't know what to tell you. Like even me myself, I learned so much. like just all the stuff you think. So I'll let you give some parting words to our students, who came to the meeting today. Go
All
ahead.
right, guys. Thanks for coming today. Thanks for your time. I just want to say you can do it too, right? Yeah, but you gotta be honest with yourself. You gotta be committed. You gotta be willing to put in the work, right, to get there. It's not about saying I want to get 260. It's about saying it and putting in the work, right, to get there. You are your only competition. Stop looking at other people, etc. Know yourself, master yourself, fix whatever you can fix, work on what you can work on, and you can do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. We're gonna have this recording for the people. I'm gonna put the link for this recording of this video in our WhatsApp group. So some of you who are not in the program, who you're not gonna get the recording, but if you join the program, then you will have access to the recording. We're actually gonna create a small, maybe like break into smaller bites for people to be able to watch later, because I think we just covered so much. It was
So
supposed to be an
much.
hour.
Yeah.
We went over 2 hours.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your time today. I truly, truly, absolutely appreciate you.
Thank you, Doctor.
And like I said, he's one of our tutors, and he's amazing. And we have a lot of amazing tutors in the group. They are wonderful. They've done extremely well on the boards. All our tutors got better. They go through extreme training before they can work with me. And I just want to say thank you guys. You guys can do this. No matter how hard it feels, listen, everything looks hard before it gets easy. Continue to strive harder, improve yourself, put in the work day and night, and you guys will be successful. Thank you guys for coming out today. Till I see you guys again for our next